I begin by thanking the organizers of the International Conference on Philosophical Counseling for giving me this opportunity to participate and contribute to the emerging discussions of philosophical counseling. Greetings to the chairperson, my fellow participants, and the attendees. The title of my paper is Rasa Sadhana as a tool for rational emotive therapy. And through this paper, I attempt in converging the ideas and the therapeutic practices of Rasa Sadhana and that of Rational-Emotive Therapy. Rasa Sadhana is an ancient Indian tantric and yogic practice of meditating on one's emotions so as to gain control over them and have a better and peaceful livelihood. And rational emotive therapy, on the other hand, is a Western approach in understanding emotions, and through emotions, understanding where one is having irrational beliefs and emotions and controlling understanding emotions and thereby controlling one's life, not only mental but also physical life. I move on to the introduction on rational emotive therapy. It is introduced by Albert Ellis in 1950s and is an approach to identify the irrational beliefs, negative thoughts and patterns, which could possibly lead to an individual into an emotional and behavioral tension. Rational emotive therapy has revolutionized the understanding of emotions in the psychological sector, because previously emotions were understood to rise from our events, from our thoughts regarding certain events. But rational emotive therapy has revolutionized this by saying that it is the beliefs regarding events and not the mere thought of the events. For example, it is not the thought of the examination that causes stress and anxiety in the student, but rather the belief, the subjective belief that the exam could be difficult and that one is underprepared, which causes the emotions of fear and tension or stress. I move on to understanding the Western approaches to emotions and how understanding the physiology of emotions gives us a better understanding of emotions, because we need a holistic approach of understanding emotions to gain control over it, which is the key point of the paper. And for this, the Western approach clearly demarcates between the mind and the body, but there are exceptional cases such as the effects of psychoactive drugs or psychosomatic disorders, where there is a blurry line between the effects of the mind and the body. And understanding the simple anatomy of the human body and the different parts of it could make us understand the effects of emotions and the influence of emotions and how the physiology and the makeup of the body affects our emotions. For example, the right hemisphere of the brain in the brain structure is known to control the emotions, while the left hemisphere controls the rational thought. The limbic system is also termed as the emotional brain, which stores the memories and controls our emotions and associates different emotions to different memories. And throughout the life, when we reflect on the same memory, we tend to associate it with different emotions based on our emotional intelligence and our emotional maturity. The neurotransmitters, which are very essential for, which are the main transferring agents between the sense organs and the brain, tend to act differently when put under the pressure of different emotions. This could be seen in simple activities such as getting goosebumps. We get goosebumps when one is fearing or like one is cold and one does not have control over the situation. When one is in terror, one gets goosebumps. So it is not just the sense organs or the brain which reacts to emotion and which are involved in emotion, but rather the entire body reacts to emotions and contributes to emotional makeup of the individual. The importance of emotions in rational emotive therapy could be seen as parallel to thinking. Thinking and emoting are seen as interdependent to each other, because the same pattern that one employs, one's body employs in thinking, or one's cognitive ability to think could be seen as the very same exact in emoting. And another important reason why emotions play a huge role in our body is how consciously or unconsciously each event of an individual is associated to a certain goal. We always approach life and everyday activities to attain certain goals in our life, and whatever event is accommodating our goals in life which fall in our belief system, we associate that with positive emotions, and whatever hinders these goals and us achieving these goals, we associate that with negative emotions. Therefore, understanding what our goals are and how desperate we are for these goals could only make us understand our emotions, because this is very interdependent. And every event of a person's life affects the individual not only emotionally, but also cognitively, behaviorally, and physiologically. But out of all of these four effects, it is the emotional reaction to events in everyday life that has an upper hand, because that could change the holistic orientation of an individual towards or away from an event, thereby designing their outlook towards life and a specific event. So it becomes more and more important for us to give emotions the due credit and understand it, because it has the power to overpower us. And with this, I move on to the Indian understanding of emotions and the Indian theory of emotion, which is the theories of rasa. The theory of rasa, which are 9 in number, Navarasas. These are Shringara rasa, Hasya rasa, Adbhuta rasa, Shanta rasa, Raudra, Virya, Karuna, Bhayanaka, and Bhibhatsa rasa. Rasas are essences of emotions and not emotions itself, because we have multiple other emotions which could be categorized into these 9 umbrella terms of emotions, which are rasas. And these could be characterized as either positive or negative based on their consequences and not on the face of it. For example, an emotion of anger does not always bring complete positive consequence, which is why we could categorize that as a negative rasa, or like negative emotion, because it cannot give rise to a holistically positive outcome. And one could understand rasas either individually or standalone, or they could understand it with the relation to different rasas. For example, Shringara rasa, which is the emotion of love, is in close connection with the Shanta rasa, which is the emotion of calmness, or it's in close connection with the Hasya rasa, which is the emotion of joy. But at the same time, calmness, or like the Shanta rasa, is held completely opposite to the Bhayanaka rasa, which is the emotion of fear. One cannot be calm and fearful at the same time. Therefore, one could understand it with this familial ties between emotions, or with individual rasas. And these rasas are bound to have power to overpower our entire personality and our intellect specifically. One does not think rationally when one is in the pressure of an emotion, let's say fear, or when in love. Therefore, it becomes very hard for them to control the situation or to soak in the situation completely. Therefore, it's very important for us to understand the emotions so as to control, because one could either surrender to their emotions or choose to control over them or understand them. And this is exactly what Rasa Sadhana promises. Rasa Sadhana is a practice which involves twofold motive. One is to understand the relationship between the rasas and the effects of it on the body and the influence of emotions on the body. And the second motive is to gain control over the emotions through exercises and fasting and meditating on emotions, so as to direct these emotions and evoke them when necessary, and to curb them when it's not necessary. The Indian outlook towards emotions is based mostly on the physical makeup of the body, the physiology of body and what one consumes. Because a healthy body contributes to healthy rasas, while a body of bad chemistry only gives rise to bad energy and bad rasas. This is like propagated through very colloquial usage, by terms such as, by phrases such as "Jaisa khayega an waisa rahega man," which points out the strong influence of what we take, not just in our cuisines or in our the art that we consume. All of this tends to influence our bodily makeup through the doshas, which are the 3 humors, and gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So we are often asked to not eat tamasic food because that makes us lazy. We are asked to eat a sattvic food because that contributes to us being calm and more rational. So all of this, all of any of the external stimuli that we consume affects our physical body, and that affects our mental body and emotional health. I now move on to how one could meditate on different rasas by choosing one rasa after the other, or by, like I've said before, the relations of different rasas and taking the like rasas together and meditating on them so as to gain control over them and evoke them when necessary. The Shringara rasa, which is the emotion of love and beauty and happiness, this rasa could become addictive when we tend to fixate the particular object of Shringara, a particular object of our love, a particular person whom we associate to be lovable. We should not be fixating to that particular object, phenomena, or a person, but rather direct that to the universal love by filtering out anger and disgust and looking for positivity and the beauty in everything and anything and everything that we encounter in everyday life. And the second sadhana is the Hasya Sadhana. Hasya Rasa is the rasa of joy, of humor. But here we are not laughing at a particular thing or in a particular incident, but rather at the illusion that the world is. We laugh at the futility of attaching too much importance to an illusion, that there is a particular way that the world has to run. We should not fixate to that thought, but rather laugh at everything, so that there is because we don't need to worry or stress or panic about anything in life, and just laugh at how everyone is so stuck up with a routine. The third sadhana is the Adbhuta Sadhana. Adbhuta Rasa is the emotion of wonder. And one could wonder only by surrendering their ego. When one does not have ego, one tends to enjoy life even more and enjoy everything that life has to offer. And through Adbhuta Sadhana, one becomes conscious of their ignorance and employs an inquisitive mind instead of a critical mind. When one is being critical, they tend to judge the world, tend to judge the positives and the negatives, but being inquisitive only means you're soaking in the world and all the beauty and all the positive knowledge that it has to offer to us. We now move on to the Shanta Rasa. Shanta Rasa is the emotion of calmness. And in Indian philosophy, it is believed that the main reason for Ashanta is the attachment to I-ness. We tend to attach ourselves to our responsibilities, to our duties of being a daughter, being a student, being a research scholar. And that tends to create the problem of attachment and then desiring for credits, whatever is attached to it. Therefore, by withdrawing from that I-ness, from detaching from that I-ness and who a person is and whom one associates to be, from detaching that, we get peace. And through even though this is considered very difficult sadhana, one could start by gaining control over different parts of their body, so different mechanisms of bodies, by, let's say, food fasting, through which one could control their digestive tract, or yogasanas, through which one could control their bodily postures, or through pranayama one could control their respiratory tract. Raudra Sadhana, the emotion of anger. And through Raudra Sadhana, one understands the reasons and evaluates and analyzes the reason why one has to be angry, and accepts them as well as denies the reason. Accepting the reason, you're not suppressing why one finds it justifiable to be angry, but denying Raudra is to choose better of anger. You don't, you choose how Raudra could lead to difficult circumstances and destruction, because Raudra, as I've mentioned before, does not always lead to a holistically positive outcome. So Raudra Sadhana involves being vigilant and accepting and denying and constantly reflecting on why anger is not the preferable reaction to the particular situation. Vida Sadhana, the emotion of Vida, which is courage and bravery. This reinstates the Indian philosophical concept of Nishkam Karma, where one does their duty without expecting any credit or reward. Karuna Sadhana, the emotion of Karuna, which is compassion. And one could be truly compassionate if they've understood the ultimate knowledge of how everything is made of change and everything is going to change, and that the whole world and the universe is an illusion. And Karuna Sadhana involves being compassionate towards the people who have not realized that the world is an illusion and are still fixated with the importance and the futility of how the world is quite important and every small thing is matter of importance. Bhayanaka Sadhana. Bhayanaka is the emotion of fear. One fears only when one does not have a clarity of things, or the ego is not confident enough. Therefore, there's a slight difference between planning things ahead and actually fearing the incidents. And Bhayanaka Sadhana involves constant planning so as to avoid fear and knowing when exactly it is time to worry. And one could practice Bhayanaka Sadhana, practice conquering fear by being dutiful and ethical, because while one is being ethical, there is no reason to fear. Bhibhatsa Sadhana, which is the last of the 9 sadhanas we have, is the emotion of disgust. Bhibhatsa Sadhana involves evaluating why one thinks one is in the position to criticize or to judge the world for what it is, and substituting bhibhatsa, the emotion of disgust, with that of Shringara, which is the emotion of love. Because one, through this sadhana, gets to taste every word, thought, and deed before uttering. Therefore, one becomes sympathetic and empathetic towards the world, and becomes compassionate towards the world, and uh, is ever careful and conscious. The With the inclusion of Rasa Sadhana in rational-emotive therapy, the therapeutic methods become more powerful and effective, with better understanding of one's emotions with respect to other emotions and the physiological occurrences and influences, and how one could meditate on emotions of one's choice is laid down in Rasa Sadhana, in tantric practices, and even in the yogic methods and Ayurvedic psychology. And in conclusion, I would like to say how understanding emotions as laid down in Rasa Sadhana as well as rational emotive therapy, one gets to understand themselves better, and therefore control their physical, mental, as well as emotional well-being. Because Rasa Sadhana, along with rational emotive therapy, helps the client or the individual to mediate, evaluate, and philosophize on emotions, and have a effective new philosophy and a very positive outlook towards life, where one begins to not only concentrate on their emotions and the importance of their emotions, but also empathize with the emotions of their fellow beings, therefore improving their relationship with their partners or their fellow humans. And the whole outlook towards life changes with a better understanding of emotions and the influence and the role of emotions in their life. Thank you.